That knot in your stomach before saying no? That's not just stress. It's a specific pattern at play. Here's why it feels so intense. Your brain processes the fear of social rejection with the same alarm as physical pain. This pain avoidance drives two powerful behaviors that look similar but are fundamentally different: people-pleasing and conflict avoidance. While both create anxiety, they spring from different fears. Mistaking one for the other can sabotage any effort to feel better. In this video, we'll dissect both patterns, uncover their hidden costs, and help you identify which one is running your life. First, let's look at the more familiar pattern: people-pleasing. What is it really about? Its foundation is a deep fear of rejection, abandonment, or being perceived as a bad person. This fear shows up as an inability to say no, set personal boundaries, or express even minor disagreement. Often, this is a learned survival skill from childhood, where keeping others happy was the only path to emotional safety. The problem is, all those suppressed needs and honest feelings don't just disappear. They build internally as anger and resentment. Over time, this path leads to burnout and a troubling disconnection from your authentic self. You forget what you actually want. So why does this produce such persistent anxiety? It's because you have outsourced your emotional regulation. Your sense of safety and self-worth becomes entirely dependent on the moods and approval of other people. This state of constant monitoring is called hypervigilance. Your nervous system is always on high alert, a core part of chronic anxiety. And every time you please someone and get that momentary relief, your brain learns a dangerous lesson. This works, reinforcing the cycle. Does that sound familiar? The anxiety of constantly managing others' perceptions? But what if your anxiety is different? What if it's not about being liked? This brings us to the second pattern: conflict avoidance. If people-pleasing is about approval, what's the fear behind this? Conflict avoidance has a different driver: a visceral aversion to friction itself. The feeling of tension is intolerable for your nervous system. A people-pleaser avoids a fight to keep your approval. A conflict avoider avoids it to protect their own internal peace. This appears as letting issues fester with a partner because the conversation feels too scary, or not speaking up at work when things go wrong. This constant emotional suppression has a staggering physical cost. Research links it to increased cortisol and a weakened immune system. Does this sound more like you? Avoiding the feeling of tension itself, no matter who you're with? Now, let's add a layer of complexity. Sometimes conflict avoidance is a practiced preference. Sometimes it's a trauma response. Psychology calls this the fawn response, a survival pattern of immediately appeasing a threat to diffuse danger. Perfectionism also fuels it. If any disagreement is viewed as a personal failure, you'll do anything to prevent it. So, a trauma history or perfectionism can turn simple conflict avoidance into a deeply ingrained, anxiety-ridden reflex. This returns us to the main distinction. The people-pleaser feels anxiety about your reaction. The conflict avoider feels it before you even interact. They have different motivations, but where do they overlap? Both patterns come from the same deep nervous system reflex: a need for safe connection. They are both strategies to avoid pain. This links directly back to our opening fact. Social rejection feels like physical injury to the brain, but here is the most devastating hidden cost. Every time you silence yourself to avoid friction, you send a message to your deepest self: you don't matter. This goes beyond simple anxiety. This is a slow, steady erosion of your self-esteem and self-trust. Living disconnected from yourself is the deepest anxiety. So we have two paths. People-pleasing anxiety comes from managing others' approval. Conflict avoidance anxiety comes from the internal feeling of tension. Both are trapped in a reinforcement loop. The temporary relief you feel from avoiding pain teaches your brain to repeat the behavior. Understanding which specific fear is driving you, fear of rejection or fear of friction, is the most meaningful first step to unwinding the anxiety. So take a moment and ask yourself honestly, which pattern is running your life, and what is it costing you?